If you try to touch me, I'll scratch your face.
This face?
Based on the short story by Joe Hill, The Black Phone revolves around Mason Thames' Finney, a boy who's kidnapped in 1978 by a serial killer called the Grabber, performed menacingly by Ethan Hawke. Creatively blending haunted house tropes with the serial killer thriller, The Black Phone reunites Ethan Hawke, Scott Derrickson, and Jason Blum for another creepy supernatural tale following their movie Sinister.
Tell me your name.
Taylor.
I was really starting to like you, Finney. I almost let you go.
The Grabber is essentially a troubled serial killer that has allegedly killed at least 3 children in Denver when the film begins.
You don't actually believe that story, do you? He doesn't really take kids that say it.
I know that.
Finney.
I said I know.
Then say it.
No.
Are you chicken?
Siblings Finney and Gwen Shaw live in the area with their abusive father, and to make things worse, the boy is often bullied and harassed by his peers. He strikes up a friendship with another kid named Robin, who stands up to the bullies and encourages Finney to do the same, a piece of advice that would be reinforced by the conclusion. Unfortunately, Bruce, one of Finney's friends, is next to be abducted by the Grabber. Gwen, who has unexplained psychic visions about the future, dreams of Bruce's kidnapping. Troubled by the number of crucial details that she knows, detectives Wright and Miller interview her, but understandably have a hard time believing her claims. Not only is Robin next to be abducted by the Grabber, but days later, while walking home, Finney is also taken and locked into a soundproof basement prison.
Hi, I'm a part-time magician. Would you like to see a magic trick?
Yeah.
Escape is virtually impossible, or at least that's what Finney thinks, until he begins getting mysterious calls from the ghosts of the previous victims through an unplugged black phone. Importantly, each of the Grabber's victims attempted to escape using a particular method, and boy are they enthusiastic about sharing what they've learnt with Finney, who somehow has the unique ability to communicate with them, something we discover is also a gift shared by the Grabber. Just as he was able to speak with ghosts, his sister Gwen was also blessed with supernatural abilities that enabled her to see visions of the future, much like their mother before her death.
The tree, the door, the gate. I'd never seen it before except in my dreams. Please hurry.
She had actually been trying to piece together clues about her brother's location, but was held back by their abusive alcoholic father Terrence, who is just as pathetic as the Grabber. While each of the techniques used by the victims are no good alone, combining their knowledge might hold the key to Finney's escape. Bruce is the first ghost to contact him, explaining that there's a loose tile on the floor that enables you to access the dirt underneath. Of course, he's eager to dig his way out, but, like Bruce, finds that he does not have the tools to do it effectively. Billy then reaches out and tells him of a hidden wire in the slit between the floor and the wall that could be used to hook onto the grate covering the window. Unfortunately, just like it did with Billy, the grate falls with the weight of the boy. Griffin is next to call. He reveals the code to disarming the lock securing the Grabber's main door is the same code as his bike lock. With this, Finney actually manages to make it to the street, but is found by the Grabber, who lives up to his name and grabs him. Vance then calls Finney and tells him about the last escape route available for him, teaching him to break a hole through the wall to gain access to a big freezer. Finney obliges and opens the back of the freezer to find this direction is also blocked as the doors are locked from the outside. It's here, when everything has failed, that Finney's best friend Robin, who was the last person the Grabber had killed, emboldens Finney to accept that the only way to escape is to fight the Grabber using everything he's learned. Robin encourages him to fill the black phone with the dirt he'd dug up and use it as a weapon, using a specific technique that Robin trains him in that will be sure to knock the Grabber down. Being prudent, he also decides to set a trap with Billy's wire and the screws from the freezer. While this is happening, the Grabber's eccentric brother Max finally realizes that Finney's in the basement, but is killed before he can help. When the Grabber comes down to kill Finney with his axe, he ties his ferocious hound to the door, preventing Finney from escaping should he manage to run past him. Finney hits the Grabber with the black phone and pulls the wire, upon which the Grabber falls into the hole and breaks his ankle on the grate hidden at the bottom. When it looks like the Grabber might still gain the upper hand, Finney knocks his mask off and he freaks out, trying to shield his face, for reasons I'll be getting into at the end. Exacting vengeance, Finney uses the opportunity to continually hit the Grabber with the phone before choking him with the cord. Crucially, before he dies, the phone rings one last time and the Grabber is forced to hear the voices of the children he killed as he choked to death. Using the frozen meat in the freezer to distract the dog, he escapes the basement. Despite the wrath of her father, Gwen continued to look for clues and led the police to an abandoned house with 6 graves in the basement, one that was empty and meant for Finney. The boy then comes out of the house across the street, revealing how the houses belonged to the Grabber and his brother Max, one used to keep his victims and the other to dispose of them. The 2 siblings embrace and their father falls on his knees asking forgiveness for how he treated them, indicating that he will hopefully stop drinking and become a better dad. At the same time, Finney is now a local hero and the Giga Chad that killed the Grabber.
It was an interesting opportunity to make a scary horror film that still had a lot of empathy and heart and almost inspiration because it's a true coming-of-age story.
Unlike The Amazing Sinister, which we also covered in a video I'll be leaving a link to below, The Black Phone ends with the hero triumphing over the villain. It's important to note a few key things. The first is a titular black phone that sits on a wall, disconnected in the soundproof basement, begging the question, why is it even there?
You know, the more grounded and realistic a movie feels, the more powerful the supernatural is when you start to slide it in. And I think the idea of this phone that is ultimately a conduit to the dead, to speaking with the dead, is really interesting.
Joe Hill's short story that ends very similarly, though earlier, makes it clear that the grabber can hear the phone as well. In the film, one of the ghosts even tells Finney that the phone's been ringing all along, but that Finney is the first victim that could hear it other than the grabber. We also see the grabber telling Finney to hang up the phone multiple times the first time it's shown. The reason for this is that the phone is a crucial part of his psyche. He's literally being called by his sins who are trying to stop him from murdering again. The black phone is symbolic of the grabber's guilt, much in the same way that his mask represents his shame.
The grabber's very mysterious. We don't get into his backstory. To me, the best villains, like Heath Ledger's The Joker or Hannibal Lecter, these are characters who you know very little about.
I kind of saw him as like a broken circuit board. You know, that there was just this, it's like his brain was broken and the wires didn't connect. Obviously, there's some brutal trauma there. Obviously, there's some immense shame. And what is driving it is mysterious. I loved that I wasn't asked to give all the answers.
He forced victims to do wrong things to justify killing them. He can't get rid of the phone, much like he can't pardon himself of the crimes he's committing. This is why the ending, which sees the phone metaphorically and literally being used to kill him, is poetic vengeance, if not justice. The message is simple: stand up for what is right, and when overpowered, stand with a group, be resourceful, and take back that control.
You remember what I told you?
Someday I have to stand up for myself.
Someday is today, Finn.
In this way, despite the dark subject matter, The Black Phone is more about hope than it is despair.
The bond between the two of them is the soul of the movie. And so when the separation occurs, the bond still exists between them. And that becomes the source of hope that sustains the film.